Hello and welcome to Learn Yourself. Today we are going to study about acids, bases and salts. This chapter is under CBSE Standard 10 under Chemistry syllabus. So let us first take an overview of chapter, that what all things we are going to study in this chapter. So obviously we are going to study about acid, base and salt. What all these compound are and how they are behaving and how can we identify them. All these things we will study in acid, base and salt. We will study their chemical properties, how they will behave when acid or base will react with metal, what we will get. Metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate will react with acid, then what we will get. Acid plus base, which kind of reaction is this, and so many more reactions like this we will study under chemical properties of acid, base and salt. Basically under this topic we will study about acid and base and their chemical properties. Then after that we will study about indicators. Indicators are the compounds which will tell us whether this compound is acid or this compound is a base. And some indicators will tell us the pH of the solution. Now we will also learn that what is a pH, how can we measure the pH. Then some important salts, their molecular formula, how we are making the salts and all those things. Washing soda, baking soda, all this we will learn under some important salts and their reaction for manufacturing of salt. So all these things we are going to study in this chapter. This chapter is very easy. Once you will understand it, you will be able to answer each and every question of this chapter. So let us start our chapter. Now let us understand the general information about acid, base and salt. So acid, they will be sour in taste, then it turns blue, litmus red. So litmus is a solution, litmus paper also available in the laboratory. When blue litmus paper will come in contact with acid, that blue litmus paper will turn red. So we can identify that this is an acidic solution. So this litmus is an indicator. Indicator means it indicates the solution, whether it is acidic or basic. It indicates the pH of the solution. It is acidic or basic. So that's why it is known as indicator. And this litmus is an indicator. Now base. So bases are having a bitter taste. It turns red litmus paper blue. If you will dip blue litmus paper in base, it won't affect on blue litmus paper. Only red litmus paper turn blue in presence of base. Here also, when you are dipping red litmus paper in acid, it will be as it is. So red litmus will be remaining red only when it comes in contact with acid. Only blue will turn red. Here red litmus will turn blue, but blue will remain blue only. So this is the nature of litmus solution or litmus paper. Now indicators. What are the indicators? We know that they are compounds which changes color when they are coming in contact with acid or base. Natural indicators and synthetic indicators. There are two types of indicators. So in natural indicator, litmus is a natural indicator. From lichens we are extracting litmus. Turmeric is also a natural indicator. When a turmeric stains will be there on the cloth and we are rubbing it with a soap, it will turn reddish. So it shows a indicator nature. So here cabbage red leaves are also working as indicators. All these are natural indicators. We also have synthetic indicators which we are preparing in laboratory, and they are methyl orange and phenolphthalein indicator. Chemical properties of acid and base. So in this first property we are going to study is that acid or base reaction with metal. What will happen when acid and base is added to a metal? So here a small experiment we are going to perform. So in this is a test tube. This is my test tube holder. I have added a dilute sulfuric acid into this test tube. Sulfuric acid is H2SO4. So this acid I have added to this test tube. Now into that I have added some of the zinc granules. As I am adding a zinc granule into this test tube, the small bubbling will start instantly. How I have arranged my apparatus? That from this test tube, one delivery tube will go to this soap solution bath. In this vessel I have kept soap solution, and this delivery tube will go directly into this. I have dipped into a soap solution. So whatever bubbles will come out of this. So as this bubble will start coming out, that gas or those bubbles will go from this, it will pass from this delivery tube and come to this vessel. Now from here those bubbles will come out. Now this is a gas, but we have to check that which gas is evolving from this acid plus zinc mixture. So this evolution of gas is hydrogen, and for that this is an identification test that wherever those bubbles are going, we will just kept a lighted candle over there, and this will burn with a popping sound. This popping sound will suggest us that this evolution of gas is of hydrogen gas. Whatever gas is evolving from this is hydrogen gas. That means when metal and acid is reacting, we are getting hydrogen gas. So this is a reaction for this experiment, that when metal is reacting with acid, that metal will react with negative element of that acid and they will form a salt. When metal is reacting, metal is a positive element, Zn plus 2. So it will react with SO4. That is minus. So SO4 minus 2. Combining capacity of both is 2. So they will form a salt, that is ZnSO4. This is a salt. So this salt and whatever is left is H2. So H2 we will get as evolution of gas. So hydrogen gas will evolve when metal and acid will react with each other. The same thing will happen when you are taking HCl at the place of H2SO4. From HCl the H will liberating and Cl will combine with the metal. So that is also a salt, but that is a salt of chloride salt. Here sulfate salt is forming. So it is depending upon which kind of acid you are using. Now we will study that when base will react with a metal, what we will get. So when base is reacting with zinc metal, we will get sodium zincate as a solid substance and hydrogen gas. Earlier we have seen that when zinc is reacting with acid, we will get salt and hydrogen gas. So with base also, this sodium hydroxide is a base and it is in aqueous solution. So with base also, we are getting a hydrogen gas. So this is about base reaction with metal and acid reaction with metal. Since we will not get hydrogen gas with all the acid and all the base. It is depending upon which kind of salt and substance they are making. But in some of the reaction we will get hydrogen gas as a product. So let us moving towards the another chemical property of acid, in which we are going to study the reaction of metal carbonates and hydrogen carbonates with acid. In this category, we are not going to react these two reactants with base. This reaction is only and only with acid. So two reactants, carbonates and hydrogen carbonates. So metal carbonates and metal hydrogen carbonates reaction we are going to see along with acid. So for this, let us conduct one experiment in which I have taken here a big test tube. Into that, this is one delivery tube which will pass a gas. This is a Thiessen funnel. From that, a drop-wise addition of hydrochloric acid will be there into this test tube. And in the test tube, I have taken sodium carbonate, Na2CO3. So this is metal and this is carbonate. So this is metal carbonate. If it is NaHCO3, then we will say metal hydrogen carbonate. NaHCO3, then it is metal hydrogen carbonate. But here I have taken in the first part of experiment. This is first part of experiment and this is first reaction. This is another reaction. We are going to talk about it later. So in this experiment, metal carbonate, that is sodium carbonate, along with HCl is going to react. So here what all particles you are seeing is of metal carbonate, and here from Thiessen funnel we are going to add hydrochloric acid in dropwise manner. So once they will start reacting, we will get carbon dioxide gas from this. So that gas will pass through from this delivery tube, and that delivery tube we have kept in another test tube in which we have taken calcium hydroxide solution. So that carbon dioxide gas is directly going in calcium hydroxide solution. So we have dipped the delivery tube in a calcium hydroxide solution. So let us see what will happen when metal carbonate is reacting with hydrochloric acid. We will get NaCl, that is sodium chloride, that will be in aqueous solution. So that product will form and it will remain here only. So this is NaCl, this is our product, it will remain here only. Then water, it will also remain here only in this test tube. And carbon dioxide, whatever gas is generating, whatever carbon dioxide will generate, will pass through from this delivery tube. Now here this two is going to react, that calcium hydroxide and carbon dioxide will react. So we will get this equation. When calcium hydroxide and carbon dioxide will react, we will get calcium carbonate. So here in this test tube as a product we will get calcium carbonate, and that will be in solid form. So we will get white precipitate of calcium carbonate in this test tube, and along with that a water will be there. You will get a precipitate, a solid substance of calcium carbonate here. So in this we are going to get this product, sodium chloride and water, that will remain here. Carbon dioxide will pass through this delivery tube and it is going to react with calcium hydroxide, and we will get calcium carbonate as a solid product. When we are taking sodium hydrogen carbonate or when we are taking metal hydrogen carbonate, then our products will remain same. Only the amount of product will change. Here we are getting 2 molecules of NaCl, whereas here we will get 1 molecule of NaCl. And water and carbon dioxide, our products are going to remain same. And the same carbon dioxide will pass through this delivery tube, which will give us calcium carbonate in this test tube. So only the amount of products are going to change in this. So we can say that when metal carbonate and metal hydrogen carbonates are reacting with acid, we will get salt plus water and plus carbon dioxide gas. This is a generalized equation that when metal carbonate and metal hydrogen carbonate is reacting with acid, we will get salt, water and carbon dioxide. If we will pass excess carbon dioxide in this, then we are going to get, earlier we are getting calcium carbonate. If excess carbon dioxide we are passing through this delivery tube into this solution, then we will get CaHCO3 twice. So when excess carbon dioxide will be there, at that time we will get calcium hydrogen carbonate. So this is all about metal carbonates and metal hydrogen carbonates reaction along with acid, in which our products are going to remain same, only the amount of product will change. And this is the identification test of carbon dioxide, in which we are getting calcium carbonate as a solid product, as a white precipitate. So we can say that whatever gaseous product is formed from this reaction is carbon dioxide. So that we can term as identification test of carbon dioxide. Our next reaction is neutralization reaction. In this reaction, acid will react with base. So that's why it is called neutralization reaction. Suppose in water we have taken NaOH. It is in aqueous phase, so that means it is in the water medium. So this is sodium hydroxide, we have taken it into a water. So when NaOH will be there, its pH will be in between 7 to 40. So this is basic. When HCl is there, we are taking in aqueous phase, then the pH will be in between 1 to 7. So that means it is acidic. When NaOH and HCl both will mix together, it will nullify the effect of each other. That means the medium of solution will no longer be acidic or basic. They will nullify each other's effect. So this solution, whatever we will get at the end or whatever our product is there, is neutral. It will neither be acidic nor basic. So that's why this is termed as neutralization reaction. When acid will react with base, we will get salt. The nature of salt will be neutral, and water. So that's why this reaction is termed as neutralization reaction, in which acid will react with base. So any acid will react with base and we will get salt plus water, in which the salt's nature will be neutral. Under this chemical property, the metallic oxide's reaction with acid and non-metallic oxide's reaction with base we are going to study. So in this, when the metallic oxide, I have taken here sodium oxide. Sodium is a metal, and when oxygen is reacting with a metal, it is termed as metallic oxide. Similarly, non-metallic oxide means when non-metallic element will react with oxygen, that product or that compound is termed as non-metallic oxide. So carbon dioxide is non-metallic oxide. Carbon is non-metallic element. When it is reacting with oxygen, this is known as non-metallic oxide. Now we know that metallic oxide, all the metallic oxides are basic in nature, and all non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. So when this metallic oxide are going to react with HCl, which is acid, it is acidic. So basic compound is react with acid, so we will get salt plus water. Similarly, how we are getting in neutralization reaction. One acid compound is reacting with base compound and we will get salt plus water. Here we cannot say this is acid compound or basic compound, but the nature of metallic oxide is basic. So when basic compound is going to react with acid, we will get salt plus water. Similarly, non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. So the acidic nature's compound, that is metallic oxide, that is carbon dioxide, is reacting with base. Calcium hydroxide is base. So when it is reacting with base, we will get salt plus water. So here also, when non-metallic oxide is reacting with base, we will get salt plus water. So similarly, how we have studied in neutralization reaction, they are nullifying each other's effect. Here also we can see that when metallic oxide is reacting with acid, we will get salt plus water. When non-metallic oxide is reacting with base, we will get salt plus water. Here what you have to remember is the nature of metallic oxides are always basic. What all metallic oxide we have studied, like magnesium oxide, sodium oxide, calcium oxide, all those are metallic oxide. They are basic in nature. Non-metallic oxides like sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, their nature is acidic. So when they are going to react with base, we will get salt and water. Dissociation of acid and base. In other terms, we can also say the ions from acid and base. So in this, we are conducting one experiment in which we have taken one beaker. Into that we have arranged one electrolytic cell. These two are nails which are connected with the wires through a battery and bulb and switch. So when the current will pass through this, the bulb will glow. When we are switching it on, the bulb will glow. And as an electrolytic solution or as a medium of electrolytic cell, we have taken diluted hydrochloric acid. So when we are taking a diluted hydrochloric acid, when it is mixing with water, the HCl's ions will dissociate or it will decompose, we can also say like that, into H plus and Cl minus. We know that electricity will pass through ions. The ions are the carriers of electricity. So if we are taking here alcohol or any other compound like glucose, then electricity will not pass through this circuit and our bulb will not glow, because there won't be any dissociation of ions, or we will not get a carriers of electricity. So if we are getting ions like this in case of acid and base, for example, if we are taking NaOH, then the dissociation product will be Na plus and OH minus. These ions are responsible for passage of electricity. If those ions are absent in this electrolytic medium, then electricity will not pass, and as a result our bulb will not glow. So we need a dissociated ions, which we are always getting from acid or base. We are not getting those kind of ions from alcohol and glucose, because those products won't dissociate and give us ions. So when you are taking alcohol and glucose compound as an electrolytic solution, the bulb will not glow. So this is a dissociation product of acid and base. When acid, you are mixing it with water, we will get H plus and Cl minus. In case of nitric acid, we will get H plus plus NO3 minus. In case of sulfuric acid, we will get 2H plus SO4 minus 2. So all these ions are responsible and they are becoming the carrier of electricity. In case of base also, whatever base you are taking, those bases also dissociate and give us ions. So when our bulb will glow, that says that the electricity is passing through the circuit and electricity is passing with the ions. The ions are the carriers of electricity. So when acid and base we are taking as a medium of electrolytic solution, then only it is possible that electricity will pass through a circuit. But whenever you are taking a compound which cannot dissociate and give us ion like alcohol and glucose, in that case the electricity will not pass. So how the ionization will happen in case of acid and base is, when acid is reacting with water, when we are mixing acid with water, we will get H plus and Cl minus as a product. When H plus is reacting with water, because H plus ion will not stay alone or it is not stable alone. So again this H plus will react with water and we will get hydronium ion. This is known as hydronium ion and its formula is H3O plus. This is hydrogen ion and this is hydronium ion. This H plus cannot stand alone, so it will react with water and we will get hydronium ion. So complete product from this HCl plus H2O is H3O plus Cl minus. H3O plus Cl minus. In earlier stage we will get this H plus, but that H plus again will react with water and as a final product we will get hydronium ion. So when hydrochloric acid is dissociated in a water, when ionization of hydrochloric acid will happen, we will get H3O plus and Cl minus. So these two ions are responsible for passage of electricity. When we are taking a base, this is a base, calcium hydroxide, when it is reacting with water, we will get K plus and OH minus. In case of base, this OH minus and K plus will be responsible for passage of electricity. Now, in acid, H plus will be there and in base, OH minus will be there. So, this H plus ions are responsible for acidic nature of acid. And this OH minus ion is responsible for basicity of base. Earlier when we were discussing a litmus test for acid and base, I have explained you that this H plus ion are responsible for the litmus test. If acid is moist, if acid is along with the moisture or it is in the aqueous medium, then only it will dissociate and this H plus ion we will get. So when we are testing an acid, then we are taking a blue litmus paper. Blue litmus paper will come in contact with H plus and it will turn red. So we will say that this solution is acidic. So this H plus ion are responsible for the acidic nature of acid. And this H plus and OH minus ions are simultaneously responsible for litmus test also. So if a bifurcation product or a dissociation product is giving you OH minus, then it is a base, and if dissociation product is giving you either H plus or hydronium ion, then it is acid. And these two ions are responsible for their acidic and basic nature. Also, we know that acid is giving us H plus and base is giving us OH minus. So, H plus and OH minus will react and will give us H2O. So, this H plus is nullifying basic effect of OH minus and this OH minus is nullifying the acidic effect of H plus, and we are getting H2O, that is water, and that is neutral. So that's why H plus ion of acid and OH minus ions of base will react together, and this reaction is termed as neutralization reaction because they are giving us a neutral product. They are nullifying each other's effect. So these ions are responsible for neutralization reaction also. Strength of acid and base, which will decide that whether this is a strong acid or strong base or weak acid or weak base. So strength of acid and base. First of all, let us talk about a dilution. What is a process of dilution? So mixing an acid or base with water. When we are mixing acid or base with water, result in decrease in the concentration of ions, that is H3O plus or H plus per unit volume. Such process is called dilution. When you are adding base, you will get here OH minus, and this ion will decrease per unit volume. That means if this is a beaker and you took a 3 molecules of HCl. So when it is reacting with water as a dissociation product, as a ionization, you will get 3H plus or 3 hydronium ion plus 3Cl minus. This will be your product when you are adding 3 molecules of hydrochloric acid in water. As you are adding more and more hydrochloric acid, this is our water, and you are adding acid into it, drop-wise manner. So, when 3 molecules of HCl will ionize, as a result of ionization, you will get 3 hydronium ion and 3 chloride ion. As you are adding more and more hydrochloric acid, you will get more and more ions. So, this suggests that if ions are more, then strength of acid is more. More H plus ion, stronger acid, and less H plus ion, weaker acid. Similarly, this will happen when you will add base into water. So as a result of this, you will get Na plus plus OH minus when this is mixing with water. So when you are adding 3 molecules of NaOH, as an ionization you will get 3 Na plus and 3 OH minus. As you are adding more sodium hydroxide into it, you will get more OH minus. So more OH minus ion will make basic character stronger. So when you are adding more and more acid, this will become concentrated solution. If in this solution amount of water is more, then this is a diluted base. But when a base amount is more, then this is a stronger base or concentrated base. So we have seen this concentrated hydrochloric acid or base in our laboratory. When this type of labeling when we are seeing in laboratory, this suggests that amount of acid and base is more compared to water. So these are concentrated, that means these are strong acid and strong base. They are termed as concentrated acid and concentrated base. But when we are adding more water in acid and base, they are termed as diluted acid and diluted base. So amount of H plus and OH minus ion will decide the strength of acid and base. This categorizes acid and base into 2 parts. We will see strong acid or strong base, or weak acid or weak base. So when the concentration of ions are more in medium, then it is strong acid or strong base. When the concentration of ions in the medium are less, then it is termed as weak acid and weak base. So how to decide the strength of acid and base, whether this acid is strong or weak, that we will decide by their pH scale. So let us study that what is a pH scale. So this is our pH scale. When you are checking a pH of any solution, you will get to know whether this solution is an acidic or basic, or you can also check the strength of acid. So how we can do that? Let us study. So when this is our pH scale, in a pH scale there are 14 readings. It starts from 1 and it will end at 14. When it starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till first to 6, this pH termed as acidic. That means if your solution's pH is in between first to 6, that means it is acidic solution. When it shows that it is 7, then it is neutral. When it shows that its pH is in between 8 to 14, that means that solution is basic in nature. When the pH is 1, then this is a strong or very strong acid. As it is going towards 7, the strength of H plus will continuously decrease and strength of OH minus will increase. This is a very strong acid, then its strength will decrease. As the OH minus strength will increase, it will nullify the effect of acidic character of H plus. So this will decrease and this will increase. At 7 pH, the both will be equal. H plus equals to OH minus. So this pH is 7 and it is neutral. Now after 7, the OH minus strength is continuously increasing and again H plus strength is continuously decreasing. So as you will see, the H plus strength is continuously decreasing from 1st to 14 and here it will be negligible, and OH minus is continuously increasing. So throughout the pH scale from 1st to 14, both ion will be present into the solution. Again, both ion will be present into the solution, but it is depending upon the amount of ion, that which ion is more and how much it is more will define the nature of the solution. It is not that when acidic solution is there, then OH minus will be absent. OH minus will be there, but it is very less, so H plus is dominating. When H plus is dominating, then acidic character is more and that is termed as acidic solution. And as the pH is decreasing, the character of acid will become strengthened. Here, when you are going in a reverse direction, from 6 to 1, the acid will become stronger and stronger. So at 6 or in between 6 to 7, you can say this is a weak acid. And in between 7 to 8, you can say this is a weak base. As you are going from 8 to 14, the basic character will become strong. And at 14, that is a strong base. Here it is a strong base. So throughout the solution, throughout the pH range of this, both ions will be present, but it is depending upon that which ion is dominating, that character will reflect into that solution. So this is all about pH range. Now how can we check that what is a pH of that particular solution? So for that we are using universal indicator. Universal indicator is an indicator that will show a different colors throughout the range of pH. That means whatever color change you will get for pH 1, the color will be different for the pH 6, and that will be in the barcode, and that will be mentioned in the barcode of that universal indicator, that if you will see so and so color change, that means this solution is in between the range of this pH, or that solution's pH is this. So we can check acidic and basic character of solution through litmus test. You know that when blue will turn red, it is acidic solution. When red will turn blue, it is basic solution. But when we need to check the strength of acidic solution or basic solution, we use universal indicator. And that universal indicator will work throughout the pH range. Importance of pH and some of the important points, that where and all the pH is very important to maintain. So here I have mentioned some of the important points and highlight of the topics, that this many things you have to remember, and it is likely that you will get reasons from some of the points, so we will discuss those as well. So first point is plants and animals are pH sensitive. Now what is the meaning of pH sensitive? Because plants and animals can work and can live within a narrow range of pH. If I'll give you an example of plants, then if a little bit the soil will be acidic or the soil will be more basic, then the plant will not survive. So it is very important that the pH should be maintained in a soil for the plants, and for the animals pH should be maintained within their system. So we can say that plants and animal are pH sensitive because they work within very narrow range of pH. Then in that only the sub point is body works with, this is about human body. Human body works with 7 to 7.8 pH range. We are also pH sensitive, and this is our range of pH. If less than that will be there, then it will create a problem, and more than this also will create a problem. So human body is also working in certain pH range. What is that pH range? From 7 to 7.8 pH range. So it is important to maintain this pH range. We will discuss this further in this fourth point. Second point is rainwater. Rainwater should be neutral. Ideally, it should be neutral. If the pH of rainwater is less than 5.6, we have discussed earlier that this is our pH range 1 to 14. 7 is a neutral pH. When we are talking about 1 to 7, it is acidic pH range, and after 7 to 14 it is basic pH range. All these are acidic solutions and all these are basic solutions. This we have discussed earlier in one of my earlier video. So when rainwater's pH is less than 5.6, then it is called acid rain, and we have learned many things about acid rain, that acid rain is not suitable for humans, animals and plants. Once the rain will contain acid traces, then it will go to the natural reservoirs like river, lake, it will mix with it, it will adversely affect to aquatic animal, as well as if we are taking a drinking water from that, it will adversely affect to humans also. So when the pH range is less than 5.6, it is termed as acid rain, and it has an adverse effect on our ecosystem. Third point is plants and crops require specific pH range to healthy growth. For the healthy growth of crops and plants, it is required that the soil of the farm or soil of the pot should have a specific pH range. Then only it will give a healthy growth to plant and crops. For that, to maintain a pH, there are certain treatment which farmers are doing. So they will treat their soil with some basic compound to maintain it in certain pH range. It should not be more acidic as well as it should not be more basic. So it should be suitable to the crop such that it will give a healthy growth to plant and crops. Now fourth point is pH of our digestive system. We know that in our digestive system there is a secretion of hydrochloric acid. It will help our food to get digested. But when in case of indigestion or some stomach upset, this acid secretion will tend to be more. So it will cause acidity in our stomach. So to maintain a certain pH range in our digestive system or to neutralize that excess acid, we use antacid. We often heard a name of Gelusil and some antacid tablets like Digene and all. They are all a basic substance which will help us to balance the pH in our digestive system, and it will nullify the effect of excess acid which has been secreted due to the indigestion or due to the acidity. So this is one of the important point, that with antacid, with the remedies of antacid, we can cure the acidity or indigestion. Then fifth is tooth decay starts when pH is lower than 5.5. We know that our teeth are made up of calcium. When calcium will come in a contact with acidic substance, it will tend to corrode and it will have an adverse effect on the calcium and on our teeth. So when the pH is lower than 5.5, it will be acidic and it will corrode our teeth. So it will start decaying our teeth. So our mouth also have certain specific pH range. If it is more acidic, then it will be harmful for our teeth. So how we are maintaining that? We are using some basic toothpaste and we are nullifying the effect of those acidic substance. So these are some of the important points, that how the pH is important in the lives of humans, animals and plants. And there are some natural remedies and there are some man-made remedies to maintain them in specific pH. But one thing, that is acid rain, which needs our most attention, because due to more and more pollution, the acid rain's frequency is increasing day by day. So this kind of events are some of the major alarming moment for the ecosystem. So from this you will get questions like, discuss that plants and animals are pH sensitive. So you have to mention the importance of pH range in plants and animals. Then another question, that we are using antacid when we have indigestion or stomach upset. So you have to mention that what will happen when acidity will be there and due to the more secretion of hydrochloric acid, and how we are treating it with antacid. Another thing is, this question will come in 1 mark, that our body works with which pH range. Then how the acid rain is harmful to ecosystem. For 2 mark, that discussion can come. At the last, this reason will come that tooth decay starts with acidic range, or tooth decay start with the pH lower than 5.5. Then you have to explain that why it is having an adverse effect on our teeth. So these points are very important, and from this you will get discussion type question or reason or one fill in the blanks or multiple choice question. Sodium hydroxide, and we are going to study its manufacturing process and its respective uses. So here this is an electrolytic cell. In this there are two electrodes, and this cell is filled with brine water. Now what is a brine water? It is a solution of sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is common salt, and the solution of sodium chloride, we will pass it from this side, and this cell is filled with sodium chloride solution. When we will start this electrolysis of a sodium chloride solution, at that time this is our anode and this is our cathode. So all the positive ion Na plus and H plus will travel towards a negative electrode, and the negative ions OH minus and Cl minus will travel towards the positive electrode. Now from where we got all these ions? When we are taking NaCl solution, then from NaCl we will get Na plus and Cl minus, and electrolysis of water will give us H plus plus OH minus. These two ions we will get from H2O. So these four ions we will get in our liquid medium. So our electrolytic solution is brine water. What is brine water? It is a solution of sodium chloride. When we are passing this sodium chloride solution in this electrolytic cell, the positive ions will travel towards the negative electrode, and negative ions will travel towards the positive electrode. Now, which reaction we will get in this cell is this reaction. When NaCl, aqueous NaCl will react with, or the electrolysis of NaCl will give us, because NaCl we have dissolved in water and we will pass electricity. So this is electrolysis of NaCl will give us two molecules of NaOH. This is our desired product because we are manufacturing sodium hydroxide. So from here we will get sodium hydroxide. Along with the sodium hydroxide we will get chlorine gas and hydrogen gas. So this Cl minus, when it will move towards the positive electrode here you will get a chlorine gas. Cl minus will, one Cl will combine with another Cl, it will form a molecule and we will get here chlorine gas. And this H plus will travel towards the negative electrode, and here the H and H will form a molecule and we will get here hydrogen gas. So along with our sodium hydroxide we will get two products. This is hydrogen gas. This also we can use in some of the important manufacturing process, and chlorine gas we can also use in some of the manufacturing process, as well as to sterilize the swimming pool water and to chlorinate the drinking water. We use the chlorine gas. So these two important gases we will get from, respectively, from a negative electrode side hydrogen gas and from positive electrode side chlorine gas. Now why we are getting from positive electrode side chlorine and from negative electrode side hydrogen? Because the hydrogen is positive ion, it will move towards negative electrode. So from negative electrode side we will get hydrogen gas. This is quite opposite. Hydrogen is positive ion, so hydrogen gas we will get from negative electrode side, and chlorine gas we will get from positive electrode side, because it is negative ion, it will move towards a positive electrode, and we will get chlorine gas from positive electrode side. So these are our total three products from electrolysis of sodium chloride, that is solution of sodium chloride, and we also know this as a brine water. Now this process is also known as core-alkali process. Why? Because core is suggesting chlorine and alkali is suggesting whatever we are getting is NaOH. These two important products we are getting from this process. So we term this process as chlor-alkali process. This is a manufacturing process of sodium hydroxide and it is also known as chlor-alkali process. Now, what are the important uses of sodium hydroxide? So, to degreasing metals we use sodium hydroxide because it is a very strong alkali. Now, what is the alkali? All the bases which can be dissolved in the water is termed as alkali. So NaOH, sodium hydroxide, is an alkali. It is a base which can dissolve in the water. So it is alkali. It is strong alkali. So to degreasing metals we are using it. And very important use is in the manufacturing of soaps, detergent, we are using sodium hydroxide. And also in the paper making process we are using sodium hydroxide. So this process is very important. From this, two reasons you will likely to get that. One is why this process is called chlor-alkali process, and the second reason is even though a hydrogen is a positive ion, we will get hydrogen gas from towards negative electrode and chlorine gas from positive electrode. At that time you have to explain that what is an electrolysis of brine solution, how the ions will move, that positive ions will move towards negative electrode and negative ion will move towards positive electrode. So we will get hydrogen gas from the negative side and chlorine gas from positive side. And this is an equation for this manufacturing process. This is also termed as electrolysis of sodium chloride. So from this we will get three products. In this, sodium hydroxide is important product. It is our desired product. Along with that, two other products we will get. These two also are equally important in manufacturing process. So let us learn our third salt, that is bleaching powder. We all know this bleaching powder is a reagent which we are using to clean our bathrooms, tiles, and certainly we are also using this as disinfectant. So let us see how can we manufacture bleaching powder. So this we know that calcium hydroxide, it is also known as dry slaked lime, when it is reacting with chlorine. Earlier we have discussed a manufacturing process of sodium hydroxide. From that manufacturing process, one of that byproduct was chlorine gas. So this also you can write that chlorine gas in the manufacturing process of bleaching powder. So when dry slaked lime is reacting with chlorine gas, it will give us calcium hypochlorite, that is CaOCl2. So this is our bleaching powder. The formula of bleaching powder is CaOCl2. It is known as bleaching powder. A generic name is bleaching powder and the chemical name is calcium hypochlorite. Because the oxygen is in between, it is known as hypo and chlorine is at the last, so hypochlorite. And along with that we will get water. So now what are the uses of bleaching powder is bleaching cotton and linen in clothing industry, then bleaching washed clothes, whatever clothes are there in laundry, they are used to bleach it and to use this to make it infection free. Also it is a very powerful oxidizing agent. It's one of the major use is as oxidizing agent. Then it is also used as disinfectant in drinking water industry. So it is also used as disinfectant to disinfect drinking water. So this is all about bleaching powder. This salt we have to learn the manufacturing reaction. It's not a process, how we can manufacture bleaching powder. So reaction for that and the uses of bleaching powder is there. Then baking soda. We all know baking soda, that it is widely used in our kitchen. that how can we make it? The sodium chloride will react with water, carbon dioxide and ammonia, and we will get ammonium salt of chlorine, that is ammonium chloride, and sodium hydrogen carbonate. This is our baking soda. So generic name is baking soda and chemical name is sodium hydrogen carbonate. So this is our baking soda. Now what are the uses of baking soda? That we are using it in the kitchen for faster cooking, and also baking soda is used to manufacture baking powder. Now these two are different term, baking soda and baking powder. When baking soda is mixed with a slight acid such as tartaric acid or so, then it will give us carbon dioxide, water and sodium salt of acid. So this carbon dioxide will help us to make our cake, bread and buns spongy. So that's why we are using baking powder majorly in cakes and buns and pastries and all. So this is a reason which is very important, that why we are using baking powder in bread and buns industry, because this reaction will take place, and from this reaction, this is our baking soda. When it reacts with a mild acid, it will give us carbon dioxide. So this carbon dioxide will make buns and pastry fluffy and spongy. Then sodium hydrogen carbonate, that is our baking soda, is also used as antacid because it has a basic property. Sometimes also it is used as a cure of acidity. Then soda acid is also used as fire extinguisher. So these are some of the important uses of sodium hydrogen carbonate. This is important, that how the baking powder is important in the industry, bread industry, and how can we make it from the baking soda. So baking soda and baking powder are two different compounds. This is chemical name of baking soda is sodium hydrogen carbonate. How can we make baking powder from baking soda? So baking soda is sodium hydrogen carbonate. Chemical name of baking soda is sodium hydrogen carbonate, and when we are making a baking powder, we are adding a mild acid or a tartaric acid with baking soda. So that mixture is known as baking powder. Now how the action of baking powder will give us a spongy bun or pastry? So action of baking powder, when baking soda is with acid, this is our combination and it is known as baking powder. So this baking powder, when heat with water, when we are heating this with water, it will give us carbon dioxide. So this carbon dioxide gas will give us a fluffiness in bread and pastry. So these are the important points which you have to remember, that baking soda's molecular formula is NaHCO3. Chemical name is sodium hydrogen carbonate. When baking soda is mixed with any mild acid, for example tartaric acid, this mixture will give us baking powder. So sometimes when we are using baking soda, we will add a 2-3 drops of lemon juice or sometimes a citric acid. So it will give us better result. So action of baking powder is when baking powder will heat with water, it will give us carbon dioxide. This is important when, and this will give a fluffiness in bread and pastry. Our fifth salt is washing soda. It is well known salt, and we get this from recrystallization of sodium carbonate. Now what is the meaning of recrystallization of sodium carbonate? Earlier we have studied that what is a saturated solution. So when we are making a saturated solution of sodium carbonate, and after that we are making a supersaturated solution of sodium carbonate, by heating the saturated solution of sodium carbonate, and then we will allow it to cool, then the crystal of sodium carbonate will regenerate. Whatever you have added after heating the solution, that much salt will recover after it will achieve the room temperature, once it will cool. So those crystals are called recrystallization of sodium carbonate. In next topic we are going to study what is a water of crystallization and what is a crystallization. In that topic we will discuss this in depth. So here, when sodium carbonate we are mixing with water, we will make a solution, a supersaturated solution of sodium carbonate, and then we will allow it to cool and we will get all the salt back. That is called a recrystallization of sodium carbonate. So this sodium carbonate will have a water molecule in their molecular formula. Earlier sodium carbonate was alone, Na2CO3. So in this molecule two sodium atoms were there and one carbonate was there. This was a molecule of sodium carbonate. But now after the recrystallization, what has happened is, along with two atoms and one atom of carbonate, the 10 atoms of water molecules are attached. So within one molecule of sodium carbonate there are 10 atoms of water molecule has joined. So this is known as recrystallization of sodium carbonate. Once you will heat this salt, this water molecule will evaporate and again you will get a dry sodium carbonate. So this water, which is along with the molecular formula of salt, is known as water of crystallization. This water will give a crystalline nature to any salt. So that's why this water molecule is known as water of crystallization. So now this is also a basic salt. Now what are the uses of washing soda? That this Na2CO3 10H2O is our washing soda, and uses of it is glass, to make glass soap and paper in industry, then to manufacture borax, then we also use this as cleaning agent, and also it is highly used in removing permanent hardness of water. Whatever the permanent hardness, whatever the carbonate salts will be present in the water will be removed by the action of washing soda. So this is all about all the important salts of sodium chloride, sodium hydroxide, baking powder, bleaching powder and washing soda. How we are manufacturing it, reactions, manufacturing reaction of each and every salt and their uses. So these topics are important. From this, some of the reasons will likely to come, and these reactions are also important and their uses are important. Some of the crystal, water of crystallization, and are the crystal really water free or the water is bound with the crystal. So first example we are taking is of copper sulfate. It is also known as hydrated copper sulfate and its color is blue. When we will heat this hydrated copper sulfate, the molecular formula is CuSO4 5H2O. 5 water molecule has attached with 1 molecule of copper sulfate. That is a complete molecular formula of hydrated copper sulfate. When you will heat this blue color crystalline substance, you will get some of the water droplets are coming, some of the water vapor is coming out from the substance, and you will see some of the water droplets inside the wall of the test tube, and as the water is coming out from the substance will lose its blue color. So this water is also known as water of crystallization. It will give a crystalline nature to any compound, and along with that it will give a blue color to hydrated copper sulfate. Once that water will come out, once you will heat that substance, that water will come out and it will leave behind a white copper sulfate with amorphous nature. So this water is important for two things, to impart crystalline nature and for the color of that crystalline substance. Another substance is our washing soda, in which one molecule of sodium carbonate will attach with 10 molecules of water. Another substance is calcium sulfate with half a molecule of water. Now what will happen that one CaSO4 molecule and another CaSO4 molecule will share a one molecule of water. So that's why half a molecule of water will attached with this and half a molecule of water will attached with another calcium sulfate molecule. So this substance is also known as calcium sulfate hemihydrate. This is also known as plaster of Paris, or in short form we also know this as POP. So how the plaster of Paris we can manufacture and how it will become a solid mass after mixing with water. Let us see that. Gypsum, that is calcium sulfate with 2 molecules of water. If you will see, this only difference is of water molecule. When 2 molecules of water is attached with 1 molecule of calcium sulfate, it is gypsum. But when a half a molecule of water is attached with calcium sulfate, it is a plaster of Paris. So when we heat this gypsum at 373 degree Kelvin, we will get plaster of Paris. It will remove 1.5 molecule of water from 1 molecule of calcium sulfate and it will become plaster of Paris. Now this is known as calcium sulfate hemihydrate. This is its chemical name. This will be in the form of powder like material, white powder like material. Again, when this plaster of Paris will mix with a water, then it will give us a hard mass of gypsum. That is a hard and solid substance which is generally used in orthopedic surgeons clinic. So this plaster of Paris will be of a white powder material, and again it will react with water and will give us a solid structure. It is also known as gypsum. So once this gypsum will be heated, it will give us plaster of Paris. It is a powder like material. But again, when we are mixing it with the water, it will again give us gypsum. Now this time when the gypsum will form, it will give us a white solid mass and it will not again go back to this stage. So this is a complete reaction of from gypsum to plaster of Paris and from plaster of Paris to gypsum.